This is the next meta level structure deck, the Fire King structure deck, and it is looking to be very promising. And it even has a pretty good trajectory of performing very well in the upcoming events in 2024. And in today's version of the deck, it's the foundational competitive build, which does include Sinful Spoil. So it's Sinful Spoil, Fire Kings for you guys. And if you guys want to, hit the ground running with this deck, then make sure you guys watch it all the way through, as I'm going to be covering combos and my deck build. But if for those of you who want to kind of counter this deck, lucky for you guys, on Friday, I'll also be dropping a counter guide on this deck and explaining why there are certain choke points that probably you should pay more attention to and maybe readjust your side deck for. So make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and let's go. So to kick off the foundational build, we have triple Sacred Fire King Garunix. What does this card do? Why am I playing 3? First of all, on the destruction trigger of a fire monster, this card will special summon itself out of the hand or the graveyard. So if your Fire King Island popped a fire monster to add this card, you'll be able to summon itself out. And whenever it summons itself, you get to destroy another fire monster out of your deck. And that's good news because you have a ton of destruction based trigger that doesn't care if it is destroyed from the field or not. So that leads into the Kieran play. Now, why do I want to play 3 copies of this? Well, I have to talk about it in tandem with the Kieran. So this is already really good, and it also becomes your big beat stick when it destroys a card. So this can kind of run over some of the big body problems. So paired with Kieran, this is one of your ways to help dodge effects and dodge impermanent and the like, because during the main phase, it has a quick effect to destroy a fire monster in your hand or on the field, and it will summon itself out. But the destruction trigger of this card is even better, because if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, then it can special summon out a monster out of the graveyard and also destroy a card on the field, and that's non-targeting, which is why it is fantastic. Luckily, that effect is also optional, so you don't have to destroy your own cards, but sometimes you maybe want to. But when you pair these two together, and you have a third monster to destroy, say an Arvada, then you have a disruption combo during your opponent's turn, so it can almost function much like a hand trip. So you would go Kieran, destroy the Arvada, this will summon out because you destroyed a monster. You can go Garunix effect, you can destroy another copy of Kieran, put that into the graveyard, and then you can summon out the Arvada. And so you destroy the card, and now you have a monster-based disruption, giving you 2 disruptions over your opponent's turn through the use of 3 cards. It's pretty decent. So that's one of the plays that you can do, and that's why I'm choosing to max out on the Garunix. We'll see how successful that is, or if it's consistent enough to rely on as a default, disruption combo, but that's the reason why I'm playing 3. Next, we have 3 copies of the Fire King Avatar Arvada. This is typically going to be your normal summon if you have access to the field spell, because this functions like, I guess, like a Guardian. You can kind of consider this deck very similar to Adamantipator, because you have a normal summon of a Kwakimeru Guardian. This is your Kwakimeru Guardian. As long as you have another fire monster, you can destroy that to negate the activation of a monster effect. It does have a destruction trigger on its own. If you do destroy this card, you get to revive one of your fire monsters out of the graveyard, one of your Fire King monsters out of the graveyard, except for Arvada, but the effects are negated and you do destroy during the end phase. Then we have triple copies of Legendary Fire King Ponix. This is one of your key starters of the deck. Arvada is still the better normal summon, but if you don't have anything and this is your only option, then you can try to use this as a bait if you already have access to Fire King Island. That's what I would recommend. Now, on the summon of this card, you get to add a spell or trap Fire King to your hand, which is great, all right? So that lets you get the Fire King Sanctuary that will lead to the Fire King Island, and then you can pop a fire monster and get your Garunix and, get the ball rolling from there. Now, if this card is destroyed during the next standby phase, you can add it back to your hand, so you can maintain a fire monster into your hand just in case you need to destroy something for your Arvada or some of these upcoming monsters, such as Barong and Rangbali. So Arvada is your monster negation, Rangbali is your spell trap negation, which is really fantastic. Now you don't need to go into your extra deck to develop a lot of negation against your opponent, so it feels a little bit again like Adamantipator. And so with this in mind, it does play pretty well against hand traps as long as you have a decent normal summon. But that also means you need a special summon for the Ponix, and that's probably the more difficult part. Okay, that's why the deck gets better at post Phantom Nightmare when you get Bonfire, and you also have the Populace. Barong is just Barong. You just need the extra name sometimes in there, and it can give you the additional search. Now, I mentioned before we were playing the Sinful Spoil engine, so we have 1 Dia Bellstar, the Black Witch. You don't need too many of these. Too many Onyxes does not lead to a good play, I would say that. And yeah, they're once per turn, so you don't really need a line that goes that hard into it. It's not like Rescue Ace where you can kind of keep on extending and extending, and you have different lines you can go to. It's not the same. Then we can go into the fire hand trap that everyone already knows. We have triple Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. You can blow this up. This is a pretty common target for you to destroy with Fire King Island if you have multiples. I'm playing triple Draw and Logbird to deal with the current meta where it's just so search heavy and you need something to kind of cut people off. And luckily this deck provides you with 3 already. Then I'm playing 2 copies of Nibiru. I am playing pretty hand trap heavy, okay? But Nibiru doesn't stop everything at the moment, but it's still a nice to have, especially when you're loading that many hand traps. Now onto the spell cards. I am playing 2 copies of Tenki. Because it's so droll heavy, I don't want to get like Tenki, search for Arvada, and then get stunned, because then it kind of becomes pointless because I can't search with my Fire King Island, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose. If you can open with it naturally, that'd be really good, but that's kind of how the cookie crumbles. Then we play triple Fire King Sanctuary. So this card allows you to exceed summon during your opponent's turn into a Fire King monster as long as you have the 2 level 8s to do so. So you can go into the Exceed Fire King Garunix Eternity. It's really good, and this also sets up the Fire King Island for you, and you get to place it straight onto the field, so that's really good. Likely, this also protects it as well, so if your opponent trying to destroy your Fire King Island, of course, Fire King Island does come with a drawback of destroying all of your own monsters. This can protect it by substituting for 1 fire monster instead, and that's why it works really well. Sometimes you don't mind the Fire King Island destruction, you just have to learn when to use it, so I'll play 2 copies of Fire King Island. I can actually choose to play 3 here, but I'm choosing not to, because you have so many ways of getting into it. And I don't think getting into it is the issue, but having extra copies in your hand means you can play around your opponent's card a little bit better. Then we have Fire King Skyburn and Circle of the Fire King. Both of these will help you achieve OTKs really easily because you can destroy some of your own cards and bring it back. Skyburn being able to target cards equal to both sides. So for your Fire King monsters, if you target 2, you get to target 2 on your opponent's side, and you get to destroy those cards. Luckily, you have a lot of beneficial effects from popping your own copy of Kiran, popping your own like Eternity Garunix, and really pushing for that massive damage, or dodge Imperm. So it's pretty decent to push back, but I think this one's a little bit better going second. Now, 1 copy of the original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye. We have, oh, they're spilling over. We have 3 copies of Wanted because you want to see the Diabell Star and get yourself a little bit of an extra draw with this, which is good because maintenance is not really that important. The boards don't exactly look very strong, and they don't need to look very strong because most of your activation are in the graveyard. You just don't want your opponent to force all of your triggers, and that's one of my key tips here. Don't let your opponent force all the triggers. I'm choosing to play 1 Call by the Grey just to deal with Ash or whatever mumbo jumbo hand trap they have. I get it, yeah, it's a Saki card. I'm just choosing to play it. Why not? And there's a lot of graveyard stuff I really don't want my opponent to activate. If I'm gonna fight a mirror match, I'd rather have a copy of Call by the Grave. And for my 3 trap cards, we have triple Infinite Impermanence, making the hand trap lineup rather huge. Okay, extra deck, Link 1s, we have 1 Salamangreat Almirage and 1 Link Karibo. These are just kind of go-tos for your Phoenix, especially if you have to normal summon 1. Link 2s, we have 1 Hita, comes with the structure deck, so I'm just gonna use the same copy. 1 SP Low Knight, I think this is just a kind of a go-to. You don't need to go into the extra deck, which is why some people choose to play the Dogmatica package to go with this deck. If you want to be a bit more budget, especially if you can't afford the Sinful Spoil stuff. 1 IP Masquerena, so you can go into SP Little Knight, and you also have 1 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. We're just gonna go as budget as possible here. And then we have the Link 3s. We have 1 Celine. Celine is very easy to make if you have the Sinful Spoil package. If you don't have the Sinful Spoil package, don't play Celine because you have no spellcaster rebuff unless you play Effect Failure. Then maybe you can still consider it because you can use Hita to get into the Celine, and that leads to the Accesscode Talker play. And then we have our other Link 3, we have Decode Talker HEATSOUL, a very powerful option. If you're going to be going hand trap heavy, then you can definitely use the Sunlight Wolf to add more cards back into your hand, especially when you are going to destroy your own Ash Blossom in most cases, and you can use the Sunlight Wolf to add it back and then go into Link Karibo. Link Karibo will give you the card back, and then you can link them off and go into Decode Talker HEATSOUL. And then for Link 4s, of course, we have Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, so that you can push for additional damage and use it to just kind of go into the graveyard. And then 1 Accesscode Talker, just go as budget as you can. Get the gold one, it works the same. And for Xyz Monster, we have 2 copies of Garunix Eternity, the Hyang of the Fire Kings. Wonderful card. On summon, it nukes the board, much like the old Garunix monster, which we are not playing in this deck. But aside from that, you can detach your material to pop a spell trap. So you got both the front row destruction and back row destruction control. And luckily, this deck plays pretty well into the there can be only one. That could be a sideboard option. But if your opponent tries to use that card against you, it won't work. Garunix is Winged Beast, Kieran's a Beast, level 4 is a Beast Warrior. You've got a lot of option to kind of play around it, so it doesn't really hurt you all that much. And if this card is destroyed, well, it has material, so it has 2 material, then you can target 2 of your Fire King monsters in the graveyard and summon them back onto the field, including itself. So it's kind of silly, so you get another 3k beat stick, which is why the quick play spells in the deck, the Skyburn or the Circle of the Fire King, works really well. You target this card, pop it, and summon a different Fire King. This will activate in the graveyard, summon 2 more. You can really push for game. That's why this is a very much an aggro deck. And then we have 1 copy of Dingirzu, because it's Dingirzu. It's like one of your non-destructive removal, and it's also non-targeting, which is why it's really nice to be played. I mean, you can technically play the rank 8 engine in the deck, and if you're playing a clean build without the Sinful Spoil, then I would recommend just playing a heavier rank 8 build. As for the other monsters, of course, being Xyz, we have Zeus, and Typhon is Typhon. So you should both have the Wombo combo right here, so they can deal with stuff. And that's the build. First of all, sorry for the mess. Don't forget, I still have that leaky ceiling. We just dealt with it, and I still don't have my desk put together, so I've moved everything over here. So my desk is a little cramped, so that's what I got for now. But, you know, to help cover my bills here, if you guys want to check out MST.TV, we have these beautiful sleeves. You guys can get these with the LT Instinct. If you guys want a darker version of these, and a little more sinister, a little bit more self-centric, LT Egos, a darker version, available at MST.TV. Let's go over the combos. Let's gonna start with the basic Fire King only stuff, and then we'll lean into some of the Sinful Spoil options, and therefore you can learn more about this deck. Everyone loves 1-card combo, so let's go with the Ponix 1 card, and then we'll lean into more of the Sinful Spoil stuff afterwards, and probably better, more practical lines. This is not likely gonna resolve every time, especially in a competitive setting, but here we go. Normal summon out the Ponix effect. We're gonna use that to grab a Sanctuary. Okay, activate the Sanctuary, and through the resolution of that, we get Fire King Island placed onto the field. Activate the Fire King Island, destroy the Ponix, and add to our hand a Garunix. Now, a fire monster was destroyed, so the Garunix can special summon. So we're going to activate it and special summon onto the field, and this gets to activate too. So this is going to activate, and now we're going to destroy a Barong. If you have nothing else in your hand, nothing else to really follow up and develop your own board, and you didn't get a different normal summon, then Barong is not bad. As now really shines during the opponent's turn, during the standby phase, Barong's going to activate, giving you the Kieran, and the Ponix is going to add back to hand. How you really play out this turn is that when your opponent activates an effect that special summons, you activate your Kieran. And you activate Kieran, destroying your Ponix during the main phase, and you get to special summon out this card onto the field. That's going to let your opponent special summon, and if they do special summon, now we get to activate Sanctuary. That's going to cause an overlay of these 2 monsters, and you get to summon out Hyang. Hyang is going to destroy every other monster on the field, hopefully removing the combo pieces from your opponent. Now, here's the true follow-up of the deck. So if nothing really gets cleared, then it's not too much to worry about. However, if this card gets destroyed, then this is going to activate and summon back 2 of your monsters. That means Garunix is going to activate, and Garunix is going to destroy a card, and then likely it's going to be another copy of Kieran, and that's going to summon back another monster and also destroy another card. So that gives you pretty much a ton of follow-up. But in the case that, you know, you get to come back to your own turn with this card, then during the standby phase, you can add the Ponix back, and you have a lot of different ways to clear your opponent's board. If they have more back row, you can detach your material from the Garunix Eternity, and then you can also normal summon out this card, add the Skyburn, and then use Skyburn to wiping out more cards, and then you still have Fire King Island, get Garunix, and then build an 8,000 damage board. So that's where it really shines. Okay, Decode Tarka line, 1.5 card. You just need another fire monster. It doesn't even need to be Arvada. Normal summon out the Ponix. Okay, use this effect, get Sanctuary. Sanctuary effect, get the Fire King Island. Activate the effect of Fire King Island, destroying the Arvada, adding Sacred Fire Garunix. Activate Garunix because of the Arvada destruction. Special summon. Activate the effect because it triggered, and we're going to destroy a Kieran directly this time. Kieran's effect's going to activate. We're going to special summon back Arvada. We're not going to destroy any cards here per se, but we do want that Kieran in the graveyard right now. So next, we're going to take the Garunix and the Arvada. Now, this board's already pretty decent. You have Disruption, but we want to go further, and so to do that, we're going to link away our cards into a Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. And then we're going to take the Phoenix, with the Ponix, and we're going to go into a Link Karibo. This is going to be pointed in the correct arrow, get to add back a fire monster. So we're going to add back a Kieran into our hand. Now note that this Ponix is not going to go back into our hand, so then we're going to take these two monsters being 2 Cybers. We get to go into our Decode Talker HEATSOUL, activate the effect, draw a card, and then during opponent's turn, draw another card. Luckily, this is also a fire monster, so if it does get destroyed, then that's going to activate our Garunix. Okay, that is one option there. Another option here that's also pretty fun is that if you can activate the Kieran on your own, destroy it yourself. Okay, you destroy it yourself, summon back the Garunix effect, pop the Kieran, and now you can also put the Tara back onto the field, and you can do the overlay play if you need to, but ultimately it gives you more. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys a combo that leans into the Diabellstar stuff. Starting off in the draw phase, we're going to go for the Seeker of the Sinful Spoil, get the Black Witch into hand, do it during the draw phase. This goes to the graveyard, don't forget the draw effect later on. Activate the Tenki. Yes, you can get drolled on this particular play, or you can choose not to add if you already have the Arvada. So this is what we have so far. Now we're going to normal summon the Arvada so that we have protection from the Ash. Now we're going to use Black Witch. So some people make the mistake of sending the card from hand, but we can just send the Tenki from the field to the graveyard, summon out the Black Witch. So that was really free, and that's going to activate, setting ourselves up with Sinful Spoil Snake Eye. We're going to activate it anyway, so we're going to send it to the grave, and that's going to summon out the Ponix. Ponix effect, get the Sanctuary, activate Sanctuary, get the Fire King Island. Now, we're going to be a bit greedier here. We have the draw effect. We can just go for it right away if we want to maintain additional fire monster, which is fine. By all means, that's fine. I'm just going to show you the greedier line, which is to link this off, go into a Link Karibo first, and then go Fire King Island, destroy the Arvada, and that's going to let us add the Garunix into hand. Chainlink 1 Garunix, Chainlink 2 the Arvada. So this is going to summon back the Ponix, which it will destroy itself, which I do want it to destroy itself. And we're going to summon the Garunix effect. We're going to pop the Kieran effect, summon back the Arvada, so we have a monster negation. Now, there's no more value for this Garunix currently on this turn, so putting it back into graveyard is definitely more beneficial. So we're going to link it away and put an SP onto the field. And before we end our turn, we activate the Wanted, put the original Sinful Spoil, and we get to draw a card into our hand. So you can definitely just keep your hand pretty loaded. And I guess don't forget to set a card. This is destroyed during the end phase, standby phase. This goes back to your hand during the opponent's turn. So we have a bit of disruption here. It doesn't look like there's very much. Like, the board feels very weak. So what happens if Arvada gets to trigger? If Arvada gets to trigger, negate a card. Okay, we use that quicker, we chain it, and now Garunix, can activate because a fire monster was destroyed. Summon a Garunix effect. You can go into 2 directions. You can go Arvada, or you can go Kieran, or you can go Barang if there's like nothing really good right now. But in the case you go for Arvada, you can set up for Sanctuary as Arvada effect. That's going to allow for the Kieran to go off. And if your opponent does start to make plays, you can protect your Arvada by activating SP and just getting rid of your own cards. But in the case of you need to clear your opponent's cards, you still have SP. And then go into Kieran plus Garunix into Hyang. That means the Fire Sanctuary did activate. You get to nuke the board, and the turn comes back to you somehow. And if this dies, you get to follow up with 2 more monsters, which is great. But if the turn comes back to you during the end phase, you get the Arvada back, and then you also get the Ponix back during your turn. So you have quite a bit of disruption against your opponent, and that's why this deck is very complicated if people don't know what they're doing. Finally, the 2-card OTK. So we have Tenki and Witch. This is 8,000 damage if you cleared the board. Perfect. Start off with the Tenki. Mainly what you're looking for is Arvada. You need to have Tenki on this one because this is going to be the one that you send for the cost of the summon of Diabellstar. Diabellstar activates, get the original. Activate the original. Summon out Ponix. Ponix effect, get Sanctuary. Sanctuary effect, place the Fire King Island. And link down into Link Karibo with the Ponix, activate the Fire King Island, destroy the Arvada, and get the Garunix. Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 2, summon back our Ponix. Chainlink 1, summon out the Garunix. Garunix effect, destroy the Kieran. Kieran effect, summon back the Arvada. So what we're going to do here is going to go Accesscode. This is already over 3,000 damage, so we just need to push for an Accesscode, which is already available in this deck. We're going to link into a Hita, the Fire Charmer Ablaze. This is a spellcaster taking a fire, but the spellcaster that lets us summon out into our Celine. Selene will gain 3 counters, which is perfect because we have a lot of spells in the grave. 2 here and 2 on the field, which counts for it. Now we're going to remove the counters. Using the effect there, summon back the Diabell Star in defense mode, which is why this play only works if you have spellcasters like Veiler or Diabell Star. You gotta pop the Veiler to do this. Take these 2, link them away into everyone's favorite code talker, Accesscode talker, and so Accesscode talker effect, target the Selene. Now you have over 8,000 damage, and you have 3 pops to go with it. So that's how you can OTK your opponent. And yes, that is all I got for this video. Hopefully you guys learned something about Sinful Spell Fire Kings or just some of the Fire King combos, and maybe you can apply it to your upcoming tournament. And wish you all the best on that. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe, ding that notification button. Especially want to learn how to counter this deck as well. Don't want to be taken by surprise? Well, I got you covered. So hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one, and bless your polls.